Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3 and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to. Welcome to a special broadcast from the Working Fans Podcast. We are brought to you by the Pro Wrestling Vault Volume 1 and Lance by Chance, written by Vinny Berry, available at WrestleVille.com. Super Vows and Pas de Deux, written by Kevin Kelton, along with I'll Be Here All Week, written by Ward Anderson, all available on Amazon.com, where you can also get Blood and Fire, the unbelievable real-life story of wrestling's original Sheik. You know we're brought to you by AO Money Meech, Camouflage, When the Deadbolt Breaks, Buzzard Canyon, the great people over at Connecticut People Records, and our wrestling commentary home of New Heights Wrestling. And I'm here with you right now because I'm reacting to the breaking news that Vince McMahon has supposedly retired from wrestling. And honestly, up front, I'm skeptical about it. We heard a couple months ago how Vince McMahon was stepping down as CEO, but was still going to be the head of creative and had put Stephanie in as CEO. And that seemed almost like a placeholder, like a figurehead. And as the stories have picked up steam and not gone away, today we get the announcement that he's retiring from wrestling. And there's a small part of me that's skeptical, that thinks it's just a way to get us to watch SmackDown tonight to see what's going to happen. Is this real? There's reports that Brock has walked out of SmackDown, and this isn't going to be a long reaction here. This is just mainly me coming and sharing some thoughts, because I was 4 or 5 when I first came across WWF at the time. And Vince McMahon was the announcer. He's been the voice for probably, I'd say maybe half of my fandom. And up until recently, I've held more of a positive opinion about him. You get into the history of wrestling, and some can debate whether he destroyed wrestling. I would argue he reshaped it, but not in a way that a lot of us would prefer. So he definitely killed the old way of business. And if you look at this story, everybody's seeing a lot of positives. And we don't often deal with the negatives on this show, but I'm going to deal with one. And it's just the fact that no matter how bad a man he was, he took this business to the heights that it reached. It was his vision that pushed it along. And he was on the cusp of having like a Netflix biography about him, getting his story out. And that is now derailed. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't be, because what he's been accused of and what he has done over the years, he is not the best person, allegedly. And if you go aside from that, just the fact that a human being is failing right now, and failing in such a public way, that I think it should hurt everybody in a little way, because you don't want to bet on anybody else's failure or wish anybody else failure, like Vince has probably done to other companies over the years. And that's the biggest negative I see. Other than that, it's really a lot of positives. This should hopefully change the whole creative direction of WWE, Hopefully storylines will make more sense now. Hopefully when we get something presented to us, it's what will actually end up coming through in the end. That's been one of the biggest criticisms about him, is that he'll rewrite a show day of, and all the work that his staff put in over that week goes to nothing because he wants to change it on a whim. So I'm hoping that the creative direction could change. Another big hope is that NXT, I'm not expecting it to go back to what it had been before. But if we can get something close to that, maybe a halfway point between what they have now and what they had before. Give us some indie stars, but also use it as a place to bring up your stars. And if people on your Raw or SmackDown rosters are not cutting it, maybe bring them down to NXT to help develop a little bit. Now, I really didn't write down any thoughts for this. Usually when we do a podcast here, you can ask Gabe, you can ask AJ. I usually have days of research, pages of notes that I whittle down to whatever I'm going to say. And this was just me getting out here reacting to this. I have been a WWE fan up until very recently. And if Vince McMahon goes, does that mean Kevin Dunn is the next to go? Could the TV direction change? Is there a chance with no Vince McMahon that we might be able to get some cooperation between companies again? We've been seeing it a lot with Impact, ROH, AEW, New Japan. I'm not expecting WWE to fully get into it, but it does open up the possibility for that, just like in the 80s when WWE worked with New Japan. Now, let us know in the comments. Let us know on Twitter, any of our social medias, what direction you hope to see the company going, how you feel about this. We wanted to get something out to kind of hear from the fans and to react to this late breaking news, because I read about it maybe around 4:30, 5 p.m. Eastern time, and SmackDown goes on the air tonight. So there's a huge part of me that doesn't want to watch SmackDown in case this is some kind of ploy to pull us into watching it. Johnny Hex on Facebook, shocked and skeptical. I would love if they started doing different things with the company like that. I'm definitely shocked myself because I thought Vince would have to die to leave the company. But if we could see different stages, different creative ideas, hopefully with her dad not there, if Stephanie stays running the company, this could be like a new jumping off point for them. And, you know, with ROH's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view that we're us at the Working Fans Podcast are going to tomorrow, wrestling is on our minds, in our minds, and we're wondering where this could land. So let us know in the comments, and we hope you enjoyed this late breaking piece. We will do this from time to time if other news stories pop up. Otherwise, you catch us on Thursdays for the regular podcast, catch us on Saturdays for the MMA podcast, and we will be following this story along with you guys on social media. So have a good night, and we'll see where else this could go.